Hi guys, here's Paula. Alright, I already have 2 likes. Awesome. So, the sound is on. I hope you can hear me well. Well, no one is tuned in yet. But so, let's begin. So, this live stream is all about ozone generators, how to pick the right ozone generators, how they work, so how they generate ozone, how to use them, how to protect your ozone generator. This is very important because they get easily damaged by inflowing liquids, and whether they're dangerous, like can you blow up your house with an ozone generator? So we will go into all of this. And but before we start, I would like to remind you all to subscribe to my newsletter. So go to thepowerofozone.com/news, because a new book is coming out, and so you want to be notified when it is published. Let's begin. So I have prepared here an overview, what all the topics that we will cover. So number 1 is how is ozone produced. So I will explain this in a short manner, and so we will focus all on ozone generators. So the topic is how is ozone produced inside an ozone generator. This is what we will cover. Then we will talk about different types of ozone generators. Then we will also talk about the 3 most popular brands: Promolife, Simply O3, and Longevity. There are many others that work just as well, maybe some even better. But those 3 are the ones which are most used by home ozone users. Then point 4, which ozone generator should you buy? So how do you determine which ozone generator is the right one for you? Because there are many different ozone generators on the market. And then number 5, how to use an ozone generator. So how to hook everything up, how to hook up the accessories, and how to make that thing work, basically. This is what we will talk about. Then we also talk about how to protect your ozone generator from backflowing liquids. So if you ozonate water, or if you use oils, if you want to do breathing ozonated olive oil, for example, you want to make sure that the liquids don't go into your generator, otherwise it's toast and you can basically scrap it. Then point number 7, how can I make sure it produces ozone? So there are also some tricks and tips, and there's a right and a wrong way to do it, so we will cover this as well. And the 8th point is what can go wrong. So this is what we will do today. So let's begin with the first point, which is how is ozone generated. And I'm trying to do something here, but it doesn't let me. I wanted to include a little image here of me down there, but it doesn't work. All right. So how is ozone produced? So ozone is electrified oxygen. So basically, when you supply electricity or energy, so it can be either electricity or it can be also UV light, to oxygen, then some of the oxygen atoms will split and they will rearrange to ozone. And so for this, I made a sketch on my website. Here it is. So hold on a second. Okay, I'm having a little trouble here with, I know what I need to do. Okay, I need to close this. All right, so this is on my website, how is ozone generated? And when you go to that website, you see here, I made a little sketch that basically shows that you see oxygen, which is the 20% that is contained in the air. Air is basically made out of 20% oxygen and around 80% nitrogen, and there's some other trace gases as well. So oxygen in the air, this is O2, so this is quite a stable molecule. But when you electrify those oxygen atoms, then they rearrange to O3. So O3 is ozone. Although in reality there's also O4, O5, O6, O8, and so forth. So this is the difference between oxygen and ozone. And here's another sketch that I made a few years ago that you can also see. So basically, you supply energy either in the form of electricity or UV light, and you get ozone out of this. And so then how does this happen inside an ozone generator? And inside an ozone generator, what happens is you produce so-called plasma. All right, so this is an example of plasma. Plasma or corona discharge. So corona discharge is also a form of plasma, and there's a cool video that I found that I want to show you. So here you see someone actually created a little ozone generator. So what you see right here, this is actually an ozone generator. So the way it works is this is basically a glass tube, and inside the glass tube he put aluminum foil in it, and outside you see there is copper wire. And so the copper wire is one electrode and the aluminum foil is the other electrode. And so the copper wire, you see he connected here to an electrical source, and the aluminum foil is also connected to an electrical source. And what happens when you turn on the electricity is you create a so-called corona discharge. And this corona discharge is, so basically this is ionized air. And so when the 20% that are in the air, when they are ionized, then a tiny percent of that turns into ozone. And so that's exactly what happens here. And you see those violet, this violet tinge here, this violet color. This is the corona discharge, and at some point he turns off the light, and then you can see it even better. You see, so this is basically this corona discharge. So something like this, something very similar happens inside your ozone generator. Only that, of course, the machine that you have is much more sophisticated, because what he did here is kind of like a makeshift, DIY experiment. But inside your generator, this thing is much more sophisticated and, of course, of much better quality. So, but this is, in essence, this is how an ozone generator works. All right, another thing to keep in mind is that when we talk that we are using an ozone generator, in reality, what we're doing is we're using an ozone-oxygen gas mix, and the majority of that gas mix is oxygen. So when you use let's say a concentration of, let's say, 30 or 40 micrograms per milliliter, or what some people like to call gamma, then this amounts to around 2 or 3% of ozone, and the majority of the rest, basically the whole rest, so basically 97 or 98% is then pure oxygen. But still, we say we use ozone, but in reality the majority of the gas mix is oxygen, so just a tiny, tiny fraction is actual ozone. And also another thing to keep in mind is that the higher the oxygen flow, the lower the ozone concentration is. And now let me explain this again here on this, using this this video here. So when we have this tube, right, and again you have to imagine that something like this, so such a similar tube is also inside your ozone generator. Now, he uses here just air, so there's air everywhere, there's air inside the tube. But when you use your ozone generator, what you would do is you would actually pump oxygen, pure oxygen, through this tube, right? So, just to explain this phenomenon that basically, the higher the oxygen flow is, the lower the ozone concentration, how one can explain this. So you can understand this by realizing how ozone is produced, because if we pumped oxygen through this tube, okay, and then we turn on the electricity, we turn on the power, and so this creates this corona discharge, which then splits the oxygen atoms and creates ozone. Then you can understand that the faster the oxygen runs through this tube, the less time it has to be converted to ozone. So the less time it lingers inside the tube, because it flows through it at a very, very high speed. Whereas if the oxygen flow is very low, then those single oxygen atoms have much more time to linger inside the tube and to be exposed to the electric field, and so many more oxygen atoms are transformed into ozone molecules. So by understanding how ozone is created, you can also understand that that's what we just said, that basically the higher the oxygen flows, the lower the ozone concentration, and vice versa. And this is an important point to understand when you have an ozone generator, and depending what type of ozone generator you have, because you have to control and you have to regulate the ozone concentration through the oxygen flow. And so, so let me give you another example of this. So here's, now hold on a second. So here is the ozone output chart of the Promolife Mini. So you see here on the left side, so in the left column, you see the oxygen flow rate. So it starts on top with 1 liter per minute, which is a very high flow, and it ends with 1/32 liter per minute. And here you have the corresponding ozone output in the middle column here, that tells you how much ozone is produced at this oxygen flow. And you see at 1 liter per minute, which is quite a high flow, the ozone concentration is 7 micrograms per milliliter. At this really tiny, very, very low flow of 1/32 liter per minute, the ozone output is 65, so much, much higher. So this is, by understanding how ozone is produced inside the ozone generator, then you understand how this makes sense. And this also helps you in using the ozone generator. Whereas when we compare here, this is the ozone output of a Promolife dual cell. And you see the Promolife dual cell, you can see it here at the bottom left side. It has 2 knobs, 2 dial knobs. So you can basically increase or decrease the ozone concentration using those dial knobs on top of using the oxygen flow. So here again, you have on the left, in the outermost left column, it says oxygen, LPM, which stands for liters per minute. And you see that for each flow, so if we compare again the highest flow, 1 liter per minute, then you see you have 10 different settings here on this machine. Whereas on the other machine, you had just 1 setting, right? And you have those 10 different settings here because you have those 2 dial knobs. Okay, so there's basically 2 different types of machines, and this brings us to the next point. So different types of ozone generators. So this is the point that I just explained. So one come with dial knobs, and the others are solely controlled through oxygen, right? And so basically each of those of the popular brands, so Promolife, Longevity, Simply O3, all of them have generators which are which are controlled either just through the oxygen flow as well as through a dial knob. So one example that I just showed, this was the dual cell versus the mini from Promolife. Another example is, for example, is the Stratus 2 from Simply 03. But at the same time, Simply 03 has also the Cumulus ozone machine. This one you see here, and this has a dial knob that goes from 0 to, I don't know, 4 or 5, and this results in, you see here, many more different generator settings. So yeah, it says from 1, 2, 3, 4, four different settings on the dial knob, in addition to the different oxygen flows that you see on the outermost left column. So, and the same is true also for longevity, right? So longevity here, the EXT 120, this is, I believe, their most popular model. You see it has here, you can set different settings. It's with a digital selector here from 1 to 10. So this is the advanced model, so to say, but they also have the EXT50. Well, I have the EXT50 right here with me. Let me show you here this thing live, right? Or you have here the simpler model, the EXT50, and it has only an on and off button. So this is the longevity version of a simple generator, which is controlled only through the oxygen flow. So all of the most popular brands have those different types of ozone generators. Those which are controlled just through the oxygen flow, or in addition with a dial on the ozone generator. So right, so this is also important to understand. So those generators that have a dial, like here the Promolife Mini, so you basically adjust the ozone concentration with the dial and with the oxygen flow. That means that what does it mean to adjust it on the oxygen flow? So that means that when you have the regulator, so this is usually attached to an oxygen tank. So if this was attached to an oxygen tank, you turn on the regulator and you control the flow of the gas that comes out of it. Okay, so those are two different ways how you can determine, how you can set the ozone concentration that you want. Okay, let's see what's our next point. All right, so corona discharge versus UV light. So this is really more something for ozone geeks, but I will cover it, just to have it covered. So there are different ways how to produce ozone inside an ozone generator. The most common, I believe, all of the ozone generators which are on the market right now, which are sold for therapeutic purposes, use the corona discharge. I don't believe any of those generators uses UV light, except plasma fire. But I think they cover, plasma fire has a tiny market. So you can say that basically all of the generators on the market use corona discharge. So this is what I showed you in that video, those kind of like violet colored light, it's a violet colored plasma discharge that you can see. So this is how ozone is created with most of the ozone generators that are sold right now. There's also other types, they can be, for example, through a plasma discharge. For example, in nature, lightning is a plasma discharge. This is also how you can create ozone, and you can also create it through electrolysis, but this is basically the creation of ozone inside water. So this is also not something that is applicable or relevant here in this area. But as to corona discharge, so okay, let me cover one topic. So what you will read quite often when you buy an ozone generator is that they claim that it's a cold corona discharge, and many of the producers, they kind of try to outbid each other and try to claim that their generator is the coldest one, and one of them says it's a true a true cold corona, and the other says it's like a triple cold corona. And no, ours is the really, really cold corona, and really none of it is really true, because there is no such a thing as a cold corona ozone generator. You will notice that all of them produce heat when they're on, when they work for some time. So okay, and why is this important? Why do they try to kind of outbid each other with those cold corona claims? The reason is that, of course, ozone is destroyed through heat. And so the more heat is generated inside the machine, then the more unstable the ozone output is. So you want to avoid heat. So you want to keep the environment inside the generator as cold as possible, to keep the ozone concentration and the ozone output as stable as possible. So this is why they try to claim, that their machine is the only truly cold one, but really none of them is a really cold one. So this is really just more or less marketing. But this is not something that most need to be concerned about. All right, then another point is dual versus single dielectric. So this is kind of the topic in the area of like Promolife versus longevity, or longevity versus simply O3, or longevity versus all the other manufacturers of all the other ozone generators. So this is another kind of topic for ozone geeks, but let me explain this as well here, and we can again use this video for this. So yeah, so let's go back to the video. So as you see here, so this is our basically homemade ozone generator with a glass tube, and you see the aluminum foil inside and the copper wire on the outside. Those are basically the two electrodes, and they are separated by glass. And this glass, this is the dielectric. So dielectric means this is a material which does not conduct electricity. And in this case here, this is a single dielectric ozone generator, because there is just one layer of this dielectric. This is just one layer of glass that is there. So again, hypothetically, if we were to pump oxygen here through this tube, then the oxygen would get in contact with the aluminum foil inside on one side, and with the glass on the other side, right? And so some manufacturers, or well, just one manufacturer, claims that this is a big no-no, and so that the ozone should never get in contact with any metals inside the ozone generator. Now, I believe this is nonsense, and I will explain why in a little bit. But basically, so the way longevity builds their ozone generators is that they put two glass tubes inside, so that the oxygen flows between two glass walls, so to say, so that the ozone is never in contact with any metal, and is only in contact with glass on both sides. So you have two walls, two levels of two layers of glass, and then on each side of the glass there is a metal electrode. So now, why do I believe that this is nonsense? Is because so longevity is just one company which does this, and I think they did an exceptional marketing strategy. So they kind of brainwashed people over the years or decades into believing that this is really the only acceptable way to produce ozone, namely with a dual dielectric or dual dielectric ozone generator, or what they call an all-glass generator. Now, the reason why this is nonsense is because their generators, the EXT120, that costs around $2,000, and it is not a true medical ozone generator. Well, there are no true medical ozone generators in North America or outside of the European Union, but specifically in America, for the simple reason because the United States is consistent in their anti-ozone narrative. So basically, the FDA says that ozone is a toxic gas, it has no medicinal value, and so consequently there cannot be such a thing as a medical ozone generator, because according to them, ozone cannot be used in a medical manner that has any scientific backing. This is the FDA's stance. The Europeans, on the other side, they are not quite consistent. So the Europeans, most of them, they also say ozone therapy is bogus. There is no scientific reason to believe that this is actually a valid therapy. But the machines, the ozone generators, which are used therapeutically, nevertheless, they have to satisfy certain standards, and those are medical machines. So the European Union has actually a standard, a certificate standard for medical ozone generators. And some of the best medical ozone generators, like for example the Herman, I believe, well, the Herman, those green machines, I believe this is they produce the best ozone generators, period. And their machine, their top level, the 10-pass green machine costs, if you calculate the currency conversion, VAT and customs and whatnot, around $15,000. And they do not use a dual dielectric ozone chamber like Longevity. So their ozone chamber is actually made out of stainless steel and quartz glass. So the ozone that is produced in one of those top super professional true medical ozone generators that cost $15,000, they get in contact, in their path, they get in contact with metal and with glass on the other side. And this is perfectly fine. No one is dying. They still see great results. No one is developing some weird side effects or anything. No, those are actually regarded as some of the top best ozone generators. So really this idea here that it has to be dual dielectric, so basically that it has to be an all-glass ozone chamber, this is really just marketing, and it is important that people realize this. And by the way, Promolife now has come out with a different line of ozone generators. They call it the O3 ARC, and those are dual dielectric generators. So for those who are somehow concerned about this or absolutely want to have a dual dielectric machine, then you can also get it from Promolife. This is the ARC 03. But they do not use glass, but they use ceramic. So the ozone flows in between two layers of ceramic instead of glass. In my opinion, this is really not a concern. This is not something that I will look at if I were to decide if I want to buy a new ozone generator or not. There are more important criteria than this. So this is, just for the ozone geeks, just to have covered this area. All right, next point. Let's talk about the three most popular brands of ozone generators. So those are Promolife, Simply O3, and Longevity. And so let's talk about those, the machines that I can present here. So Promolife, let's start with the dual. So this is the dual ozone generator. This is really my favorite ozone generator. Let me reduce the brightness because I don't think you can see this. So you see, I have actually one of those, super expensive, super high quality, only for professional German 10-pass machines. I have the Zotzmann. But when I do some ozone treatments at home, I don't use the Zotzman, I use this thing. I use the Promolife dual cell. So this is really my favorite machine. It's light, it's very, very quiet. I actually cannot tell whether, most times I cannot tell whether it's on or off. I have to actually look at it, because then the light, when it's on, then the light goes on. But you can barely hear it. And I really, really like it. I really appreciate it. I have the longevity, for example, or the HTU 500 that I have. They produce a very high-pitched noise, and which is really annoying. And if you want to run the ozone generator for like 15 or 20 minutes because you want to ozonate water, or do some insufflations, then this is really annoying. It can also annoy your neighbors if you live in an apartment. And the Promolife on the other side is super quiet. It's light. It has many different ozone settings. It's very simple to use. So this is an ozone generator again that has dials, and at the same time is here controlled through the oxygen flow. So this is one ozone generator by Promolife. Another one, very simple one, is already I presented the ozone output chart. This is the Mini. The Mini, although it produces less ozone, surprisingly is actually heavier than the dual cell. I don't quite understand why, but this is also a nice machine. So this is a machine, for example, if you're thinking about doing just like rectal insufflations, for example. Some people they really just are interested in just one type of ozone application, nothing else, like rectal insufflation, or they only want to do vaginal insufflation. Well, in that case, this is a great machine, and it has like 3 or 4 usable settings if you want to use the direct method of an application. So basically, if you want to do vaginal insufflations with the direct method, meaning that the catheter is inserted into you and then you just let the gas flow in a continuous manner the whole time, then you can use, for example, 1/8 of liter per minute here, which will give you an ozone output of 38. You can also use 1/16, which will give you 52, which is good. They say it's a high concentration. I would call it like a high to medium concentration. So yeah, you can use like 3 or 4 different ozone concentrations and ozone flows here without a problem. You can also use the lower concentrations, but you would need to use a syringe for this. So the way you would do it, let's say you want to do ear insufflations at a very, very low ozone concentration. You want to do, what did I say? You want to do ear insufflations at a very low ozone concentration. But for this, you would need to set the flow at 1 liter per minute, right? Which would give you 7 micrograms per milliliter. So the way to do it is you would first fill a syringe and then attach the syringe to the ear scopes and then press the content of the syringe into your ear scopes. So this way you could still use the low ozone concentration without having to deal with the high flows. Okay, so this is Promolife. Then we have Simplio 3. This is a Stratus 2, and you see this is quite a simple thing. So they also call it like the brick ozone generators, right? So here is the oxygen inlet, oxygen in, it says here, and this is the ozone outlet, and you also here have an ozone output chart, and it says at 1/8 you're going to get 43 micrograms per milliliter, 1/16 58, and 1/4 21. So you also have like 3 pretty good settings here if you want to do the direct methods. And now some of you may wonder, okay, hold on a second, this machine, you can also buy this on Alibaba for like a fraction of what Simplio 3 sells it for, right? So, but here's the thing. So if you compare the ozone output charts of the machines that are sold on Alibaba with the one here from Simplio3, you will notice that they are very, very different. So those Alibaba machines, they have actually much less attractive ozone outputs. So often you have at a flow of 1/8 of a liter per minute, you have like ozone concentration of like 70 or 80. So those machines, although they may be cheaper, they have maybe just like 1 or 2 usable settings. All right. So plus you have to consider that when you buy direct from China, okay, so I used to say, for people who want to buy from China, I didn't see much of a problem, but since then I have actually heard from people who have done this, and they say that what often is a problem is that the connectors here, for example, they fall off, or that there's some plastic on the machines that starts to become brittle. There is like things are not glued correctly, and so things just start falling apart really quickly from those cheap China machines, or they already arrive like half basically degenerated in that half degenerated state. And another point is that you see when you buy from Simplio3, okay, and if there's something wrong with the machine, then you can always contact them, you can call them, you can write them an email, and so you have service basically close by, and so they can fix whatever is wrong relatively quickly. Whereas if you buy from China, then good luck trying to get anything fixed or serviced or having your merchandise returned and then getting the money back, right? I mean, good luck with that. Number one. And number two is people. I remember I had a friend who was a German carpenter, and he had a motto. He used to say, "Cheap is expensive." And this, I found this so true throughout my life. Really, cheap is expensive. And what he meant by this is that when you buy something cheap, to save money, then often enough you end up actually buying 2 or 3 times later. Why? Because that cheap thing that you were hoping to save money with later breaks down because it is of low quality, and then you have to buy the more expensive version later on. So you end up paying 2 or 3 times as much as you were planning to. So, and this is really true. So this machine, the Stratus 2, this is a Stratus 2.0 from Simplio3. Although it may look like those other cheap machines that you will find, this is actually calibrated completely differently. And there's also a video online which shows how they calibrated it and how accurate this really is. So this machine, I used it a lot with ozone saunas when I did them with my dad, and also for breathing ozonated olive oil, also for my dad, who has he has COPD, and he really liked this. So this is really a true and tested machine. And another great thing that Simplio3 came up with, okay, damn it, I just realized I forgot to prepare this. So they came up with, but you have to check it out on their website. So they have a special regulator, they call it the Ozone Plus regulator. So this regulator has actually additional flows than those standard flows, all right? So in addition to, for example, 1/8 of a liter per minute, they have also something like 3/8 of a liter per minute. And in addition to 1/16 liter per minute, you can also set something like 5/16 of a liter per minute. So, and this is really brilliant, because this allows you for many more different settings, although you have those really simple machine that is controlled through the oxygen flow. But they just added more settings on the regulator, and this is really a brilliant idea. And if you buy this for the Stratus O, I believe that they can make a custom chart for you that will tell you which ozone output you get for the specific, for those new fractions. Okay, on top of that, they also have the Stratus 3 generator, and you see here, you can see this new system. So basically you see the settings here, 1, 2, 3, down to 11. So those are the settings on the regulator. All right, so basically depending on what number you set here on the regulator, you have different flows, and this corresponds then to different ozone concentrations. So this is really a brilliant idea. What I don't like so much is that you actually don't see the exact flows. So it doesn't tell you like 6, what does it correspond with? Like what flow is it exactly? Is it 1/16? Is it a quarter? Like what does it tell me? Because this information is important to know how fast you flow, how fast the oxygen flows. Because if you're doing ear insufflations, for example, with a direct flow, then you cannot let the gas flow in too quickly. Otherwise, you could damage your eardrum, right? So I think what they should do, they should add a third column here, which tells you what flow exactly this is. And for this reason, just for the sticker here, I actually like the Stratus O a little better than this one. And just like the Stratus O, it has here oxygen inlet and here the ozone outlet. But so what you need to consider also that those 3 different brands, they use different connectors. All right, so let me explain what I mean by this. So let's go back here to the Promolife. You see, so the Promolife uses here, those are so-called Lure-Lock connectors, okay? So that means that if I want to connect some silicone tubing, then I need the silicone tubing to have a Lure-Lock connector. This is a male Lure-Lock connector. This is a female, right? And there's basically I love Lure-Lock connectors. Those are like mini screws, and they make for a really tight connection. All right. So Promolife uses Lure-Lock connectors with everything. So let's say I wanted to connect a piece of silicone tubing, right? Here I have a piece of silicone tubing, and I wanted to connect it with a generator. Then first I would need to push the connector into the silicone tubing. Although the machines, when you buy them from Promolife, they already come with tubing that already has the connectors inside. But in case you want to do, something new, something else, and the ones that came with the machine are not enough for you, then this is how you do it. You just push a Lure-Lock connector inside the silicone tubing, and now I just screw it in here. And bam, you see? This is how it's connected, right? So both the oxygen in as well as the ozone outlet have those screw-in Lure-Lock connectors that I really like, right? Now, and this is a little different with the Simplio 3 machines, okay? So if I have here the Simplio 3, you see the oxygen inlet, you see? The oxygen inlet here. No, sorry, this is a discharge. The oxygen inlet here, this is a slip-on. This is a slip-on. This is not a Lure connector, but a Lure slip. So that means I have to have the right type of tubing that is tight enough to just slip this on. You see, this one is not tight enough. But they, luckily Simplio 3, of course, provides you the right type of tubing. Which is this one here. Okay, so this is a tubing that has a smaller inner diameter, and you see now I can slip it on this machine, and it sits really tightly, right? But this is important to know that basically different ozone generators come with different solutions how everything is connected. But the ozone output on the other side, this is again a lure connector. Okay? So Simplio3 has a mix between lure slip and lure lock. Promolife has only lure locks. And Longevity, on the other hand, they have another different system. You see, they have so-called quick connectors, right? So this is, you see, this is my Longevity EXT50. And it comes with tubings already attached to the generator. And per default, their generators come with quick connectors. So let me make this bigger here. They come with quick connectors, okay? And quick connectors, they're not screwed in one into the other, but they're just slipped in like this. And this is why I don't like them so much, because this does not make for a very secure connection. And I have experienced already that if you by accident, if you have not connected it really tightly, and if you by accident touch it in a manner that is not careful, then this can get disconnected. This is why I'm not a big fan of quick connectors, but it is something that that is another solution. Others use it and they love it. So quick connectors basically come also in such a form, right? So this is a pair of a male and female quick connectors. You see, this is how it works. And basically, if I wanted to connect this to some tubing, what I would do is I would take one end of those connectors and push it here into the tubing, right, like this. And now I could do something. I could do something with the machine, right, in such a manner. So this is important to know. So you can actually you can mix and match the different accessories by the different brands. So you can, for example, you can buy a water bubbler from, let's say, Simplio3 and use it with a Promolife machine or with a Longevity machine, or you can use a bubbler from Longevity and use it with Promolife. But you will most likely have to exchange the connectors, which in many cases is not as difficult to do as I just showed with silicone tubing. But this is this is something that is important to know. So those different brands have different solutions how everything is connected. All right, so what have we covered so far here? Okay, so I have presented Stratus 2, Stratus 3, and also now let me show you, sorry for so much clicking. Yeah, for the Longevity, that was the last one. So this is the Longevity EXT50. So this is basically an all glass ozone chamber that is inside. So that means that as I explained, so that the ozone flows through, is in contact only with the glass when it flows through the ozone chamber, and it is the most the simplest model that they have. So basically this works only with an on and off button. And Longevity generators, they come with a custom chart, custom ozone output chart. So that chart that they send with your machine will be specific to your machine. And the reason for this is that, even if you build, let's say, 10 different ozone chambers exactly the same way, there will be tiny small deviations of well, it depends on the maker, but it can be anything between 1 and 10 or maybe 1 and 20% in the ozone output. The reason for this is because ozone generation is a very unstable process, so you cannot make it like 100% accurate. And also the thing with Longevity is that they calibrate it to the regulator that you buy from them. So this is why their generators seem exceptionally accurate, but in reality it's not necessarily that, but just the fact that they're calibrated according to the regulator, and that basically every ozone output chart is custom made. All right, anything else we need to cover about ozone generators? No, let me look here at the comments if anyone has questions. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Galactic Giraffe, and thank you, Shakti. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hey, someone from Brazil, awesome. Any USA suppliers of Ozovit in USA, of Ozovit, I'm blanking out right now what Ozovit is. I'm not sure what Ozovit is. This is great information. All right, great. No questions so far. Then let's continue with the next topic. Number 4. Which ozone generator is the best for home ozone therapy? So when you start looking into ozone generators that you want to buy for ozone treatments that you can do at home, you will find there are many different machines. And when you Google this, then most of the machines that will pop up are actually not machines which are safe to use for ozone treatments. And now let me explain how you can determine this, how you can determine whether the machine you're looking at, whether you can use it for insufflations or ozone saunas or possibly even injections. So the way to determine this is, number 1 is it has to satisfy certain 5 criteria. And this is something that I covered in an article that I wrote. This article is a massive article. This is like a monster. It's super long. Okay, let me scroll up. So it's called "Buying an Ozone Generator for Ozone Therapy at Home. The Ultimate Guide." Is for 2020, but it's still mostly valid now for 2021 as well. And so here I set up this chart, this table that shows you how you can determine whether the generator that hold on a second, sorry guys, you can't see it. Okay, sorry. So this is, okay, the article here is "Buying an Ozone Generator for Ozone Therapy at Home, the Ultimate Guide." And this is something also that you can download. And there's links in the description of the video how you can and where you can download the information here. So basically, I set up here this table, and this shows you the differences between an ozone therapy generator versus an industrial ozone generator. Because as I said, most of the ozone generators that you will find when you start Googling this are generators that are used for redoing your house, for removing mold from your home, or for removing odors from your car, for example. And those are generators which are extremely powerful. They're by several factors. And so if you use those for medicinal reasons, for medicinal purposes, you could actually hurt yourself. So it's very important that you buy the right type of ozone generator. And here, those are 5 criteria that I'm listing here. You see, those are all the criteria here on the left side that tells you whether an ozone generator is safe for ozone therapy or not, right? And so number 1 is the ozone output chart has to be provided. Okay, so now let's test this. Let's test those points on the Promolife dual cell. Okay, so number 1 is the ozone output chart has to be provided, right? And you see here the Promolife has the ozone output chart printed on top. Okay, so this first point is definitely satisfied. Okay, second point is the ozone concentration has to be given in micrograms per milliliter or UG per milliliter or mcg per cc or also milligrams per liter. This is something I forgot to add here. And this is also often referred to as gamma. Okay, all right, so let's see if this is true for the dual cell. And yes, it is. It says here measured in UG per milliliter or microgram per milliliter. All right, so all those numbers that you see here, this is microgram per milliliter. All right, great. So next point has been satisfied. Then third point is it has to use oxygen as feed gas. All right, so let's see if this is true for the Promolife dual cell. And it says here the left column, oxygen liters per minute, right? So it tells you oxygen has to go in. Now you may ask, okay, what's the alternative if it does not use oxygen? What could it use instead? Well, it could also run on just air, right? Industrial ozone generators, most of them run on air, and air is only 20% oxygen and the rest is around 80% nitrogen. So a machine which you can use for ozone therapy purposes has to run on pure oxygen, either from an oxygen tank or from an oxygen concentrator. All right, let's see. Next point. It has to the chart has to include low oxygen flows of at least 1/8 to 1/2 liter per minute. Have to be there on the ozone output chart. And we see, yes, I have 1/8, a quarter, half, all those are there, and even less, even 1/16 and even 1/32. All right. So again, next, another point which has been satisfied by the machine. And then the last point is that the machine puts out ozone concentrations of 20 to 60 micrograms per milliliter at flows of 1/2 to 1/8 liter per minute. So, okay, so let's check if this is true for the Promolife. And yes, here for 1/8 of a liter per minute, I get anything between 12 and 75 micrograms per milliliter. At 1/16, I get anything between 21 and 95 micrograms per milliliter, and so forth. So I have ozone concentrations in that range between 20 and 60 micrograms per milliliter at those flows. And this is important. Okay, so now you may ask, okay, why is this important? It's because if an ozone generator is providing you the ozone output in grams per hour or milligrams per hour, then this is an industrial ozone generator. And this is a generator that, as I said, in all likelihood produces a much higher ozone output than is safe to use for ozone for therapeutic purposes, right? So yeah, so this is what an ozone generator that you are planning on using for ozone treatments, for insufflations, or possibly even injections, to ozonate water, do ozone saunas, or whatever. It has to satisfy those 5 criteria. Okay, and as I said, so you can go to that article that I just showed, and you can look again at those 5 criteria. So the links to that are supplied beneath this video. All right, next point is, okay, how do you find out which ozone generator is the right one for you? It really depends on your preferences, okay? And so this can mean, like, if you only want to spend a certain amount of time, then there are also only certain machines that will interest you. So if you have a smaller budget, then you would buy, like, for example, the Longevity EXT50 or the Simplio 3 Stratus or the Promolife Mini. But if, let's say, the budget is not so important for you, and if you're willing to spend a little more, then you would go for, let's say, the Promolife dual cell, or maybe the ARC or 3 of the Longevity 120. And also versatility. So if an ozone generator has dial knobs, so the more different ozone concentrations it can produce, then the more versatile it is. because then you can use it for more different ozone applications. And this is also something that I covered here in this article. I really recommend that you check this out. This is also something that you can download, as I said. So this is a guide to buying an ozone generator, and this really covers everything, all the preferences, everything that you would want. So, for example, which ozone generator is the best one for me? And so people have different preferences. For example, they want to do everything, right? All the different ozone treatments which are possible: rectal, vaginal, ear, nasal insufflations, ozone sauna, ozone water, ozonated oil, injection, everything you can think of, right? Then I give here on the left side, you see all the different ozone generators which satisfy this preference, right? But there are others who don't want to do all those things. They just are interested in, let's say, only the insufflations. Well, in that case, I recommend a little smaller list of different ozone generators to pick from, right? There are also others, as I mentioned before, who want to do only rectal insufflations, right? Or rectal insufflations are a very popular home ozone treatment. And there are some people who only want to do this. They're happy to do only rectal insufflations, nothing else. All right, great. In that case, this is the number of ozone generators that you should pick from, and so forth. So depending what you want to do, then depending on what your preference is, then you have different options, right? Others, for example, they want to be able to buy everything from just one place, including the oxygen, right? Then, for example, Promolife is the right place because they sell oxygen concentrators, including filled oxygen tanks, right? So this is a very vast list that I really recommend you check this out. So you just pick your preference, right? You can also have a technical preference, right? So some people want absolutely an ozone generator that has a dial knob. Well, in that case, those are your options. For others, it's very important that it's an all-glass ozone chamber. Well, in that case, those are your options, and so on and so forth, right? So check out this document, and it will basically give you all the different possibilities that you have when it comes to ozone generators. Okay, Another point is, you want to also know, I already covered this. Do you want to have a dial knob, or are you happy with having to adjust the ozone concentration through the oxygen flow? If you're fine with this, then great, right? And in this case, I really recommend buying one of those Stratus machines from Simplio 3, because, as I said, they have those additional flows. If you order this Ozone Plus regulator, this special Ozone Plus regulator, again, this was a genius idea on their part, in my opinion. Then you basically have a machine that is only controlled through oxygen, but you have additional settings because of that special regulator. All right, now let's see, what's the next point? How do I use an ozone generator? Okay, so let's get here to the practical side. All right, so first of all, what you need to understand that basically every ozone setup consists of the following parts. So every ozone setup consists of the following 4 parts. So number 1, it's oxygen source plus regulator. So it's either oxygen concentrator and a regulator, or an oxygen tank and a regulator. Then the second part is an ozone generator. Then the third part are the accessories, so stuff like bags, syringes, catheters, water bubblers, sauna tents. Those are all accessories. And then the fourth part is the breathing protection. right? So this is important to know, that if you're starting to set up your ozone equipment, then you want to know, you want to have this overview, all right? And so now let's use here this example, okay? So those are the 4 parts. For example, if you want to ozonate water with an industrial tank and a Promolife dual cell, all right? So we have here first part, oxygen plus regulator. And in this case, there's an industrial tank with an industrial low flow regulator, but it could be also a medical tank and a medical regulator. It could also be an oxygen concentrator and an external low flow regulator. It could be many different types of oxygen. In this case, it's an industrial tank with an industrial regulator. All right, the second part is the ozone generator, and here it is a Promolife dual cell, but it could be any other of the ozone generators that I presented. So it could be one of the Simplio 3s, it could be longevity generator, or something else entirely. All right, now the third one here are the accessories. So in this case, this is a water bubbler, and there's already some water in it, and you have some tubing, some connectors, a check valve. And so this is what, those are the little supplies, those are those little accessories that you would need to connect everything and to make it work. And the fourth is the breathing protection. So this is also one very important part. This is very, very important. If you're planning on doing ozone treatments at home, you have to plan for the breathing protection, because once you start doing ozone treatments at home, you will find that there will be quite some excess ozone in the room. Okay, this is inevitable. Even if you use many different protections, there will be some excess ozone. So you want to minimize it as much as possible, because you want to avoid breathing that ozone gas in. So the breathing protection, this should be part of every ozone setup. Okay. So this is just one example, but let's see how this pans out for what do we have here? This is stuff for rectal insufflations. All right. So this is exactly the same scheme. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, but now we have slightly different parts here. So instead of an industrial tank here at number 1, we have a medical tank with a medical regulator. We have the same ozone generator, a Promolife dual, but now we have different accessories, right? So we have here a bag, we have a catheter, and again, silicone tubing and connectors, and we have ozonated olive oil and gloves as a lubricant. And as breathing protection, in this case, we have a destructor or a filling station, all right? But again, this is the same scheme, 1, 2, 3, 4, only that you have different parts, like different types of, those parts, okay? Here, another example, this is something that you would need to do vaginal insufflations with a direct method. And here again, oxygen comes in the form of industrial tank, but we have a different ozone generator. We have the Mini now, and the accessories also look different, and we need some plastic cover to protect the furniture. And breathing protection is also different. So we have here a mask and some towels as a breathing protection, okay? But so this single parts can change, right? The type of accessories can change. The brand of ozone generator can change. The types of oxygen can change. The breathing protection, all this can change, but they're always there. Every one of those 4 points has to be there no matter what you do. Okay, so once you understand this, right, once you have this general idea, then you go to work, okay? So when you want to connect everything, right, so first you start connecting this thing here. So number 1 with number 2, the oxygen plus regulator to the ozone generator, all right? So now let's do this in the case of ozonated water, all right? So let's say we want to connect stuff to be able to make ozonated water. Okay, so point 1, we connect oxygen to, we connect the ozone generator to the oxygen source. All right, so let's actually do this, and I have prepared some stuff here, but I need to close this, and I need to close this. All right. All right, let's put this aside for a moment. Okay, so what I need is, I need my oxygen source. This is my industrial oxygen concentrator. Tank, industrial oxygen tank. And this is my regulator. And I will also need some tubing. So the tubing usually already comes with your ozone equipment. It's usually already connected everything to the connectors. But let's say that you want to start from scratch. Okay, so the way to do this, I first screw this in. Now, depending what type of regulator you have, you may have to use a wrench to make this tight, all right? And you want to set this up in a way that this outlet here points down, and that you can watch the gauge here, right? Because this is the gauge, and this tells you, once you open the tank, it tells you if the tank is full, and if so, how much gas there still is in there. All right, now I connect the tubing to it. So I just push the tubing over the inlet, right, as far up as it goes. All right, now I take, this is a male Lulock connector, and I push it here into the silicone tubing. All right, so this is done. Now I take my ozone generator, and here where it says oxygen in, right, oxygen in, I screw the tubing with the Lulock, I screw this into the oxygen inlet in. All right, great. So we have this here. So let's put this in a way that we have enough space. Okay, now let's see what is the other point? What is the next point that we need to do? Okay, then connect the ozone generator to the power supply. So I have, let's see, I have it prepared here, right? So this is my cable, all right, I plug it in. Now this is important. This reminds you again that there is no ozone without electricity. So you need electricity in order to be able to produce ozone. All right, next point is select the application and the accessory. All right, so in our case, this was water. We wanted to ozonate water. So we need a water bubbler, right? Okay, so I have this prepared as well. Okay, so here is our water bubbler, and this is another great solution from Promolife. So you see there's already some mineral water in here, and there's a water bubbler. This means that there is a stem inside, and the stem at the bottom has this stone. And so basically when oxygen runs through it, then it will create tiny bubbles. So you'll basically infuse the water with the ozone. And the stem is connected here to this thing, right? This is a destructor. So all the excess ozone that will leave the water will go into the destructor, so it will prevent me from breathing it in. All right, and then what I will also need is also something that already comes with Promolife gear. This is, you see, this is a protection against damage. So this is a check valve that is here inside. And so those are basically two pieces of tubing. There is a female and a male lure lock on each side. And this allows me to screw this tubing here into the ozone out port, right? So thanks to the lure lock, it's really easy to just screw it in. And this I connect here with the inlet, with the stem of the water bubbler, right? Okay, let's see what else I prepared. Right. So next will be to select the ozone concentration and the oxygen flow, right? So I would check on the output chart of my, this one. I would check on the output chart of my generator, which is also printed on top here. But I want you to all to see this. So basically, what I'm going to select is a flow of, let's say, a quarter of a liter per minute. And maximum, so I will say 5.5. That means that I need to set both dials on 5, and then I would have an ozone concentration of 53. All right. So this is what I'm gonna do. But this tank is empty. So what I'm gonna do instead, I'm gonna connect a different tank. I prepared this industrial tank only here for this demonstration. Okay, so here I connected this now to a different tank. I now open the tank. Okay, and now here watch the ozone bubbler, how it will create bubbles. I watch the water bubbler. Okay, so I'm setting it to a quarter of a liter per minute. And nothing happens. Okay, this is interesting why nothing happens. Let's see. Okay, there's something. Aha, so probably, let's see. Must be something with the check valve. Let's see if the problem is the check valve. So I have removed the check valve now, so I will connect this directly to the ozone generator. Yes, and now there is flow. You see, and this is the reason why I'm not a big fan of check valves. Alright, so the check valve seems to be either blocked or something is wrong with the check valve. You see, okay, you see guys, this is what happens when you do it live. Alright, so now this is not a good solution because now I don't have any protection against liquid, alright? So I will actually turn this off. Alright, so the check valve was supposed to be the protection of my generator to prevent water from flowing back, but there was something wrong with the check valve. You see, it was blocking the flow of the gas, so I had to remove it. So what will I do instead? Instead, I will use my preferred method of protecting my ozone equipment, and I will use a trap. Okay, alright, since I'm not using this tank anymore, I'm just gonna put it aside to have more space here. Okay, so now let's do this live. Let's hook up the trap to the ozone generator. So basically, the way it needs to be set up is the trap is goes between the water bubbler and the generator. So basically any backflowing liquid first go into the trap and are not transported into the ozone generator, okay? So, okay. So what I need for this is I need another piece of silicone tubing, but is this long enough? Yes, I think this is long enough. Okay, so I need a silicone tubing and a Lulok. So I see that here the inlet of the trap has a male Lulok. That means I need a corresponding female Lulok, but I need a male Lulok here for this outlet. So I take this silicone tubing and I take silicone tubing and I push a male and a female Lulok onto each end. Okay, so I have something like this. This is a female, this is a male Lulok. I screw the male here. I connect it with the inlet of the trap, and the inlet is the one that is connected to the stem. And now I have a little problem, because now I have both here a male and here also a male connector. So what I will do, I will remove here the male connector. I will put a female instead. I will screw it in and bam, alright? So now it goes like this. The oxygen goes here into the ozone generator, and then out of the ozone generator goes the ozone. It flows into the trap, then it leaves the trap and it goes into the water bubbler, alright? And now we will see if everything's connected correctly, because now I will open the oxygen flow again, and if there are bubbles, and there are bubbles, you see there are bubbles happening, so there is a flow, right? And so I turn now the ozone generator, I set both dials to 5, and what is happening right now is that we are making ozonated water, and thanks here to the destructor, I don't smell any ozone, right? So we're producing ozone, but there's no smell in the room, all right? So this is how I have connected the Promolife dual to make ozonated water, all right? Now, okay. Now let's do the same with a different ozone generator, all right? And or not the same, let's say we want to do vaginal insufflations, okay? So let's say we want to do vaginal insufflations. So we want to do this here, but instead of the Promolife Mini, we want to use the Simplio 3 Stratus 3, right? So we want to use this ozone generator, and we want to use vaginal insufflations with a direct method. That means we need a catheter and we need some extra tubing. Okay? So this is some tubing, and I'm just gonna cut the right amount of tubing that I will need. Okay, but first let's take care here of this. So let's disconnect everything. Let's put this aside. Let's put this aside. And let's put this aside as well. Okay, so we're done here with a dual cell. And instead, we will use this generator. Okay, and so here, as I pointed out before, so the oxygen inlet is here on this side, and this is a Lure slip connector. Okay, you know what, let me make this bigger. Okay, no, I cannot make this bigger. Alright, so now let me see whether I can connect this tubing with this inlet, and my suspicion is that I will not. Alright, now this has a male Lulok from my previous use, and you see this is the tubing has a too large diameter. Alright, so what I will do is I will just cut a piece of the right type of tubing. Okay, so I know that this is the tubing that will fit here onto the generator. See, it makes for a really tight connection. All right, so I take this tubing And I just cut the piece that I need. I don't need a lot. This is maybe like, I don't know, maybe 2 feet or less. Okay, this was not a clean cut. Let me make a clean cut. All right. Okay, so I have a piece of silicone tubing. And now I'm taking, you see, I have here a filter on the oxygen line. And the filter has Lure-Lock connectors on both sides. So I'm, wait a minute. I need a female Lure-Lock connector, right? So I'm just using one female connector. I'm pushing it into the silicone tubing. I'm screwing it into the oxygen filter. The other part of the silicone tubing, I'm pushing it right here. Okay, and now let's say that I would want to do vaginal insufflations with a direct method, right? So then I would take another much longer silicone tubing. This is, how long is this? This is probably 5 or 6 feet long. Probably not that long. Well, maybe 4 or 5 feet. Okay. And now I have here a Lure-Lock outlet and a Lure-Lock ozone outlet on this generator. So that means I need a male Lure-Lock connector, right, to screw this in. So I take one male Lure-Lock connector, push this into one end of the silicone tubing, screw this in, voila. All right. And now I will use this catheter. Now the catheter has a lure end, right? So what type of lure end does fit into the lure catheter? Sorry about that. This is another male Lure-Lock connector, all right? So I push another male Lure-Lock connector into the other end of this long silicone tubing, all right? So now what I would do if I really wanted to do vaginal insufflations, I would prepare my couch. So I would put some plastic sheet on top of my couch to protect it from ozone, because remember that ozone will bleach every fabric, so you want to protect it. And so I would put some plastic sheet on my couch, and then I would put some towel on top of the plastic sheet, and then I would insert the catheter. All right, so now let's do as if I was inserting it here. All right, and then I would connect it here to the output tubing, right? And this is the reason why I want the tubing to be long, because I want to have that leeway when I lie down on my couch, right? And then what I would do, I would put another towel on top of me on my lap, so the towel would absorb any excess ozone that would escape. And I would also put a mask on to protect me from the ozone. All right, so this would be my breathing protection. All right, so basically once I would do this, then again I would turn on the oxygen, you know, depending on whatever flow I would set, right? And for this here I would use this special ozone oxygen regulator that fits this ozone generator. So I would set the oxygen flow and then turn the machine on. Oh, of course, very good reminder. Of course, I need to connect it to the power supply, right? And so, okay, so the thing here with the Simply 03 is when you connect to the power supply, it shows you that it's connected because you see the on-off button lights up red, right? And then if I was actually making some ozone, I don't want to now because I don't want to be exposed to it, I would turn it off, the light turns blue, and it starts producing ozone. And what you hear also, I'm not sure you guys hear it, there's a very a very low hum, a very low humming noise, and because this is a fan that is inside, so this is something that is unique for simply 3 generators. They have a fan inside which probably makes sure that the ozone output is much more stable than possibly with other ozone generators. Okay, let's see if we have some questions. I think we have some questions. Okay, let's see. It seems counterintuitive that oxidation is good for you because the media is all about antioxidant. That's right. It is counterintuitive, but there are many things which are counterintuitive and but yet turn out to be true. Someone says drink O3 only on an empty stomach. This is correct. You should only drink it on an empty stomach. So either like first thing in the morning, even before breakfast, and then wait around 15 to 20 minutes before you eat something. So wait after you drank the ozonated water, or wait 15 to 20 minutes before you eat something. All right, now let's see what else we have here. So how do I set up an ozone generator, right? So we have covered all this. So first, connect to oxygen source. So connect the ozone generator to oxygen source, right? Then connect the ozone generator to your power supply. You select application and accessories. So we have done that. So we have done 2 applications, so 2 examples. One ozonated water and the other direct vaginal insufflations. Then select the ozone concentration, so you read this off the ozone chart that either came with the ozone generator or that is printed on your ozone generator, and then breathing protection, right? So you always want to cover those 4 points: oxygen, ozone, accessories, and breathing protection. All right, now next point. How do I protect my ozone generator? Okay, so this is a very important point because whichever ozone producer, ozone manufacturer of ozone generators I have spoken with, they all told me that the number one reason why they get ozone machines back from customers which are defective is because there's some liquid or some material that got into the machine. And so there's actually 4 different ways how you can prevent this, and I like some better than others. As you have seen, using a check valve is not my favorite one, hasn't worked out. I don't know what's wrong with the check valve, but this is something that I've heard from others. There seem to be problems with the check valves. But so how do you protect machines? How do you protect your ozone generator? So there's something that I came up with that I call the quadruple protection. Okay, the quadruple anti-liquid protection. So here is a image of that, but no, it doesn't. Okay, here's the image. All right, so you see 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so number 1, the first point, and this is probably one of the most effective ones. So the first one, you want to disconnect the tubing from the ozone out port on your ozone generator the minute you are done with with ozonating your water or ozonating your oils. Okay, you see this is number 1, where you see the tubing is disconnected and it lies on the table. Number 2, this is the check valve that unfortunately has not worked out so well in this case. I should have probably tested the check valve before I did this. So this was a good reminder that check valves are often not so great. The third point is this trap. A trap is probably one of my favorite solutions how to protect ozone generator from backflowing liquids. And number 4 is gravity. So you want to, if it's possible, you want to put the container with the liquid, whether it's water or oil, beneath the generator, right? Because then if it has to flow up into the generator, then this will be much more difficult for the liquids to accomplish than if the liquid stays on the same level as the generator. Okay, so this is the quadruple anti-liquid protection. So you want to use at least one of those steps. If you want to keep it, if you want to keep it super safe, then you can also use all four protections at the same time, or you can use just two of them or three of them. Okay, but this is definitely an important point when using ozone generators. You know, some generators cost a few $1,000s, and once oil goes into a generator, it cannot be salvaged, so it's basically scrap material at this point. If it's water, in some cases with water you can fix it. For example, the Promolife machines, if accidentally water goes in, all you need to do is just blast oxygen at a very high flow through it for like half an hour, and this usually fixes the problem. In others, getting water into the machine can cause a short circuit, so you have to be careful. So the best idea is really not to allow any liquids into the machine, and this quadruple anti-liquid protection is one such way. And in this, talking about this, I want to remind again to subscribe to my newsletter, because my book is coming up, and the quadruple anti-liquid protection is part of that book, and also many other tips and tricks how to use ozone treatments at home. All right, let's see what's next. How do I protect my ozone generator? Right, you will also want to protect it from dust, and for this, what Promolife came up with, they came up with those caps that they have. Let me demonstrate the caps. Just a moment. So let me put this aside. Let's change the camera here. Okay, so let me demonstrate the caps. Let's unhook this. Let's unhook this. Okay, so let's go back here to the Promolife dual cell, and this one comes with those practical black caps that you just put here on the oxygen in and ozone out port. So whenever you're done with the generator, it makes sense to put those caps on to prevent dust and other particulate matter from going inside. All right, what do we have? Don't let it run for too long, like for example to ozonate oils. That's right, so ozonated oils, especially ozonated olive oils, are something that is very popular among home ozone people, so people who use ozone at home. But I personally would not use any of those machines to make ozonated oil. So if you are thinking about making ozonated oil like in larger batches because you want to sell it, for example, then I would buy an industrial machine, one that can also be hooked up to an oxygen source, because this will take it will take much less time when you use an industrial machine, and it will protect your ozone therapy machine. Okay, because so those machines here, in my opinion, they're not made for such long-term usage that is required when you ozonate oils. Because when you make ozonated oil, you need to let the machine run for between 24 or 48 hours or even longer non-stop, right? So I actually did this kind of as an experiment, and also to for my website to make like a step-by-step protocol how to do this, and I did not feel comfortable about this. Like it took me more than a week to get this done, and I was like, making this in short sequences of several hours, of maybe one or 2 hours maximum every day. Because I believe, those machines, first of all, when you let them run for several hours, their ozone output will decrease substantially because of those things that we talked about earlier. Because when you run them, they will get hot, and the heat destroys the ozone, and so what comes out, the ozone production, is then reduced significantly if you run it for a long time. This is why I recommend, if you're thinking about producing larger amounts of ozonated oil, use an industrial generator. So that way you will also protect your machine that you use for ozone therapies. This is one thing, one solution. Another solution is that if you're doing breathing ozonated olive oil, then during that procedure you actually run ozone through the olive oil. But when you do breathing ozonated olive oil, then you do this maybe for like half an hour or 40 minutes tops at a time, or even less than that. Some people just do it for 10 minutes. And so when you do this often enough, then you will, as a byproduct, you will have ozonated olive oil. So this is another solution. So if you're doing breathing ozonated olive oil, or if one of your family members does it, then after a few weeks you will have ozonated olive oil as a byproduct of that. So this is what I would do. So I would either, if you're thinking about making ozonated oil, either buy an industrial machine, or use the byproduct of BOOO, so breathing ozonated olive oil, or just buy already made ozonated olive oil. I think this is the simplest and the safest method, because ozonating oils, there's some risks involved in this. Basically, everyone who's done this on a professional level says that they had a fire breakout at some point. I'm not exactly sure about which part it is that catches fire. Is it the oil that gets too hot, or some other accident happens? But basically, everyone who does it tells me that they had some fire accident. So yeah, best is to really buy the already done ozonated olive oil, which is also relatively cheap. All right, next point. Don't drop into bathtub. That's right. So it's an electrical appliance. So if you're thinking about doing something like a bath in ozonated water, so there is some people like to do this. I think they do this as an alternative to ozone saunas, or to alternative to hydrogen peroxide baths. In that case, you want to make sure that the ozone generator cannot fall into the bath water, because if it does, it will basically electrocute you. So if you do this, secure the machine, use a sufficiently long tubing between the ozone generator and the bathtub, so that it does not happen that if you accidentally yank on the tubing, that the generator will fall into the bathtub, right? So yeah. Now, if you have some other ideas what to do, how to protect yourself and the generator, let me know. Maybe there's something I haven't covered. But let's move on to the next point. Okay, so how can you make sure that your ozone generator actually produces ozone? So some people, they like to test first. So they hook everything up and then they turn on the machine, and they prefer to smell on it to make sure that there's really ozone coming out before they do whatever they want to do. And so number one, I recommend not to do this. All right, so don't smell on it, don't test it. Just assume that it is producing ozone, and in most cases it will. Okay, so don't do this here. Okay, so if there's ozone coming out here, don't do this. All right, you don't want to breathe in what is coming out of the ozone output hose. And the reason for this is that when you bring it so close to your nose and you sniff it, then the concentration is so high that it can literally knock you out. Okay, so I had this happen to me. This is not a good idea. But remember, so first of all, don't do this. If the machine is on, so basically if you see that the light is on, then chances are good it produces ozone. Also, if in spite of all the precautions, the breathing precautions that I recommend, like using bubblers with an attached distractor, using the mask, using towels, in spite of all the anti-ozone breathing precautions, there will still be some ozone that will escape into the room. So once you're done, once you remove your mask, you will notice, okay, there is some ozone, but at that point the concentration will be very low. So sooner or later you will smell it a little bit, all right? So regardless, how many protections you use, you will smell the ozone. So this is how you will know sooner or later that yes, okay, there really was ozone coming out of the machine while I was using it, right? So this is number one. Number two, so yeah, don't do this. Don't test it like this. If you absolutely have to, all right, again, I recommend not to do this. If you absolutely have to, then do something like this. So keep the tubing at a distance from you, like, what is it, like a feet, 2 feet, something like a meter away, and then use your other hand to fan whatever is coming out of the tubing, to fan it towards you, all right? And then you will smell the smell of ozone faintly, okay, without knocking yourself out, without poisoning yourself, basically. All right, so this is the correct way to do it. The other way is to use, sorry if it was too fast here, use the latex glove test. Okay, so let's do the latex glove test. So the latex glove test works in a way that you basically use a latex glove, and then you keep the ozone stream close to the latex glove, and ozone destroys latex on contact. All right, so it will make holes into the latex glove immediately. All right, so let's do this right now. So for this, I'm gonna switch the camera again. I'm gonna switch the camera. We're gonna use the dual cell. I'm removing the caps. Now let's see the tubing. All right, so I need here my male Lurlock tubing that goes into the oxygen inlet. Okay, and I need another tubing here into the ozone outlet. Okay, so now I will turn the ozone on. Okay, first I'm opening the oxygen at a very low flow. All right, so I let it run a little bit to flush the lines here. Now I'm turning the ozone generator on. Let's see if there's some ozone coming out. And you see I'm doing exactly that. So I'm using the other hand to fan it towards me. And I don't smell anything yet, because this is quite a low flow. Okay, so I will increase the flow a little bit. Still not smelling it. We'll increase it some more. Turn on the second cell. Okay, I barely smell any ozone here. Okay, now I smell it. Okay, yeah, there was a long tubing. It took a while for the tubing to reach. All right, so now watch my glove as I run the ozone through it. You see how it makes a hole? Now just on contact, you see? So this is a very low flow, so this is why it's happening so low. But you see, on contact, the ozone destroys the latex. Right, so this is also how you can, let's increase here. Here we go. Okay. Now I don't want to expose myself to the ozone too much, so I'm going to end it here. Okay. There's a lot of ozone. All right. So this is the latex glove test that you can do to find out if your ozone generator produces ozone. Make sure that everything's turned off. Okay. All right. So yeah, number one, assume that your ozone generator makes some ozone when the light is turned on. Number two, fan it towards your face with the other hand, or use the latex glove test. All right, now we are arriving at to the last point. What can go wrong with ozone? Like, can you blow up your house? The answer is yes, you actually can. I don't know that this has ever happened. I've never heard such a story, but ozone is combustible, is highly combustible. Now, what does that mean? Now, combustible does not mean that it will catch fire spontaneously. But if there already is an open fire source, like for example a fireplace with a fire going, then ozone will increase the flames, and it will make it burn even brighter, and it will just increase the flames. And combustible, it means that there could even be an explosion. Again, I've never heard such a thing, and also think that the home ozone generators, that they produce too low of a concentration for this to happen, for an explosion to take place. But you should definitely keep the ozone away from fireplaces. So people who have, for example, gas stoves at home, they should not set up their ozone equipment next to the fire stove. All right. So if you know that you have a gas stove, don't use your ozone equipment. Don't let ozone run in the kitchen. Right. And also another point is, I believe gas stoves, they have, I don't know if this is still true. It may be, they have something like a pilot light, so like a tiny fire flame that is always going. So if that's the case, then also you don't want to, for example, ozonate your house. And again, you don't want to use the ozone equipment in the kitchen. Yeah, so as long as you're smart about it, as long as you keep it away from open fire sources, you should be fine. But yes, ozone can catch fire if there's already a fire going on, or it can make the flames, more just grow bigger. And also, okay, very important part that I just did not do during the latex glove test, you need to protect yourself from breathing ozone, okay? So this is very, very important, because ozone, it is quite beneficial depending how you use it. But one way you don't want to use it is you don't want to breathe it in, because it can really damage your lungs. It can damage your respiratory tract. It can irritate it and make it inflamed, and it can literally knock you out. Now, this is the bad news. The good news is that ozone is so harsh that it is really difficult to expose yourself accidentally to too high amounts of ozone. Just like you cannot accidentally leave a hand in an open fire, right? Because you will recoil, and immediately you will notice, a reflex will kick in, and you will remove the hand. So, this is something that you cannot accidentally be too close to like a house that is on fire, right? Because the heat alone will make you run away. And the same thing with ozone, like you will notice it immediately. You will notice that the constriction in your breathing, and so you will immediately remove yourself if there's too much ozone. But when you're doing ozone at home, and if you're not careful, what I noticed, if you breathe what I mentioned, if you breathe the ozone output straight from the hose, for example, then accidents can happen. So this is why it's important that that you think ahead, right, and that you protect yourself. That you first of all that you prevent a build-up of ozone in your room. That's number one. And number two, if ozone already has escaped into your room, then you want to take care of it. So you want to ventilate. You want to open windows, doors. You want to create a draft if possible, and one of my favorite solutions is to wear a mask, all right? And so this is a special mask, here number 2097 from the company 3M. And this filter, it has ozone in its specifications. So they have tested it and they know that this works with ozone. And I have tested it, have been testing it for years. So I can tell you definitely this works with ozone. So it's either this number of the filter or 2138. So those two for sure work with ozone. There may be also many other different filters which work with ozone as well. That's absolutely possible, but those work for ozone 100%, all right? And one such filter can really last you years. So this is what I've experienced. So this is my favorite solution, to wear a mask, and you wear it and you can move, you can do everything, so it keeps you flexible. Another solution is use a distractor whenever possible, okay? So for example, if you're filling a bag or a syringe that you want to use for rectal insufflations or vaginal insufflations or ear insufflations or whatever, use a distractor if it's possible. A distractor is so-called filling station. Okay, so you see inside here, there's material that destroys ozone. So when ozone flows in here, it is destroyed, and what comes out is pure oxygen. Okay, so what you do here, you see, and there's this nifty here a three-way valve attached to it, with an off button on one side, okay? So for example, if you want to fill a syringe and if you want to attach it here to this port, right? Then, first what you do is you prepare everything, you turn on the oxygen, you turn on the ozone generator, and then you let the ozone run for a while, right? And, to allow the ozone generator to warm up a bit, and also to flush the lines, right? And then, and during that time, you will let the ozone flow into the distractor and you won't smell it, right? And then you attach to your syringe or your bag, right? I had prepared a bag here. Where's the bag? And it's down there. All right. Well, okay, so let's say you want to fill a bag for rectal insufflations, right? Then you would attach it here. Right, let me grab it. Okay, so let's say you want to fill a bag for rectal insufflations, okay? So then you attach it here to this thing, right? And first you let the ozone flow into the generator, and then you just flip here this lever towards the distractor, and so at this point then the ozone flows here, you see, into the bag, and you will fill the bag. And then when it's done, you close this thing, right? And then the ozone again is flowing into the distractor. Then you close the clamp here as well, right? You unscrew it, and then you use the bag, and you're not exposed to any excess ozone because you have used here this nifty filling station, right? So yeah, use either a mask, a distractor, or use, here what I use, this ozone bubbler you see with a distractor already attached to it. I think this is absolutely a brilliant solution. This also prevents any ozone buildup in your room. Or use a towel when you're in the ozone sauna, wrap a towel around your neck. If you're doing vaginal insufflations, put the towel on your lap for the towel to absorb the ozone. So use all those things to protect yourself. Use a fan, so you can put a fan in front of you. Recently I had seen someone post in the ozone group there's some a thing like a neck fence. So this is something you charge it up with a USB cable, and you put this on your neck, and there are like two tiny fans that are facing you and are blowing air right into your face. Okay, I think this is brilliant for ozone saunas or ear insufflations. I haven't tried it out myself yet, but sounds like a great solution. So definitely protect yourself from breathing ozone. So, all right, so there's plenty of links in the description below the video to all the things that we have talked about. There's also a page that I updated about on the best ozone generators for ozone therapy at home. I present there 6 of my favorite generators. I have tested them, most of them, 4 of those 6, I have tested them extensively, have been using some of them for years. You see my whole collection of ozone generators here. So I give my honest recommendations, my honest opinion on the machines. So check this out as well. And I think we're done. Now let's see if there are any questions. How much ozone water should I drink in a day? Well, it depends what you're treating, what you want to achieve, how you respond to the ozone, to the ozone water. But I would start with at least 1 glass in the morning. So when I say 1 glass, I mean anything between 8 and 12 ounces, right? So start with this, and then you want to increase to like 1 or 2 glasses in the morning, and then you can maybe do another glass later in the day. All right, but so you have to see according to your response, according to what you're treating, but also be mindful that drinking ozonated water, this can, depending on what is going on, what your condition is, there can be some really violent reaction at the beginning. Okay. Yeah. All right. Next question. Can ozonated water be used as an eye rinse using an eye up? Yes, this can be done. Now, I'm not sure whether pure ozonated water is probably better to use saline. So you ozonate the saline, and then you can use this as a rinse. There's one doctor, Dr. Kendrit, something like this, something with K, who is an eye doctor and who is apparently treating his patients and who is recommending that people do exactly that, probably for some eye infections or eye inflammation of various types. Having said that, a disclaimer, nothing I mentioned here is to be taken as medical advice. If you have some problems, please consult with your doctor. And that would be it. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you guys found this helpful. Again, subscribe to my newsletter, because big tech is censoring right and left and center and everything. So it may be just a matter of time until before they take me down as well. So you want to be subscribed. If I will not be taken down, then the next live stream will be about different ozone applications. So I want to do all the different insufflations. So there will be one about rectal insufflations and the different ways how you can do rectal insufflations, different ways how you can do vaginal insufflations will be a separate live stream. Different ways how you can do ear insufflations will be a separate live stream, and so on and so forth. So this is what I'm planning. And also check out my Odyssey channel. So in case this one goes away, subscribe to my Odyssey channel. There's also a link to this below the description, odyssey.com. Guys, thank you very much. This was a true marathon. I'm exhausted. Okay, thank you, G Telephone as well. Bye guys, bye-bye.